The Carnation Hospital has resumed work after it was closed down yesterday due to the flooding. The polyclinic was among several facilities, including homes, vehicles, bridges and major roads, which were swept off by the rains in Accra on Tuesday.
And yesterday, as at the time that I got there around 9:15. The place was very muddy. The entire facility was flooded. I understand that the flood came from the Gamanche Palace. That is a wall dividing the facility, the hospital facility, and the Gamanche Palace. It got broken, and then the water guys threw that and through to the facility.
Yeah.
So the entire place was flooded. Yesterday, the emergency ward, the OPD, the children's department, everywhere was flooded. So I saw the staff who were actually trying to clear the place themselves. I was told that they had there till 12 and they were still not back. So I came back to the studio. But this morning I went there for the aftermath to see what was happening. And I must commend the staff members. They've done a very fantastic job. They've cleared the place. And healthcare delivery service was ongoing from the OPD department. You could see that a lot of people were there being attended to. I proceeded to the emergency ward to see the current situation, and the place was also cleared. I saw even some patients in there. I went to the pharmacy office. Even though they've lost some, they had been able to clear the place, and then they were doing their work as they should. However, authorities didn't want to speak. They wouldn't allow us to speak to any of the patients there. But I was told that the AMA mayor, the mayor had been there and promised to solve the situation in the shortest possible time this morning. So healthcare delivery right now at the Carnation Polyclinic is ongoing.
It's ongoing. Meanwhile, some flood victims in Nima and close to the president's residence are appealing to government to fix a major drain which overflows and washes away their property anytime it rains. A number of them tried salvaging their belongings by jumping into yesterday's drains.
Inusa Nurahu hasn't slept all night. He lives in Nima and has been trekking in a desperate attempt to find his motorbike.
We walk all the way from Nima to Paloma, whether we can see something to remove or something. No, there's no way. We have to exercise patience. The day should break. The water should come down before we see if we can get our properties. No, we can't. We didn't get anything. We lose everything.
Inusa is one of many residents here who have taken things in their own hands, chasing and trying to salvage as much as they can from the water.
We live with the president in the community. The president, His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, live next street. So if the president live next street and the gutter just behind his house is like this, then it's unfortunate. Because when the president even baths, the wastewater of the president ends here. And this is also a piece of an advice to the MPP government. If you want to break the 8 and you live in your big cars, excuse me to say, in your big cars, in your big offices, and you sit there and you say you want to break the 8, it's your own cup of tea.
When the June 3rd disaster happened and more than 150 people got killed, this gutter here was one of the worst affected places. It was hoped then that that disaster was going to change something about emergency preparedness in the capital city.
When it starts raining, you are in fear, you don't know what can happen. So you start calling on God to have mercy or to let the rain subside. If it doesn't happen and the rain takes its full course, then it means that all the rooms will be taken over by the flood. And we have to bring everything out, sweep the water out, and then year in, year out is the same story. The same story. And I live in this house with kids. But my youngest boy is about 2 years, 5 months. That's my wife. So the whole of yesterday night, we've been standing till this morning.
In this house nearby, Pastor Zakaria Adomako is hard at work, pumping out water.
President Akufo-Addo has, however, charged MMDAs to remove structures obstructing free flow of water immediately. MMDAs are to ensure developers adhere to building permits and to sanction staff who issue permits to buildings on waterways. The presidency has established a monitoring unit which will report directly to the presidency on the progress of the measures. MMDCEs will be held accountable for any breaches that result in damages from the flooding. Listen.
Flooding situation in Accra. Government, since 2017, has spent some 450 million cedis on the flood control program, which has resulted in reduced incidents of flooding, particularly in the major flood-prone areas in Accra, such as the Odo Drainage Channel. Phase 5 of the Accra Sanitary Sewer and Stormwater Alleviation Project, which is intended to ensure that Odo Channel is free of silt and debris, has been commissioned. Indeed, the construction of 19 kilometers of drains has been completed, while some 1,000 kilometers of drains have been excavated, rechanneled, and maintained across the country as part of efforts to reduce the perennial flooding of Accra. However, it is obvious from recent events that more needs to be done to deal with the situation permanently. And as has been rightly stated by the hard-working Minister for Works and Housing, the Honorable Francis Asenso-Boakye, Member of Parliament for Bantama, in his address of today, government will continue to work towards the day when Ghanaians, especially those in Accra, will live in calm and tranquility through the rainy season. Metropolitan, municipal, and district chief assemblies have been charged to ensure that obstructions to the free flow of water, as well as developments along waterways, are removed immediately. MMDAs are also to ensure the strict adherence of developers to the planning laws of our country and sanction staff who have issued permits for structures to be built on waterways to serve as a deterrent to others who seek to engage in such acts. To ensure these directives are strictly complied with, I have established a monitoring unit at Jubilee House that will be reporting directly to me on the progress of the implementation of these measures. I'm thus putting all MMDCs on notice. You will be held accountable for any breaches that result in damage from flooding. As President of the Republic, I will not allow the selfish acts of a few to jeopardize the collective futures of the rest of us. While government does its part, we cannot overlook the negative effects of dumping of refuse into open drains by some unpatriotic citizens. Regardless of the investment that is made in the construction of well-engineered drains, the indiscriminate disposal of solid waste into open drains and channels will reduce our capacity to end the perennial problem of flooding. I urge all those engaged in such practices to put an end to them. I thank the Jospon Group of companies and their invaluable Dutch partner.
My colleague Michael Ashali joins us live with the latest on this development. Michael, you were at this event. What more has the president been saying? Hello, Michael. Michael, I'm asking you to tell me what the president has been saying, aside directing the MMDAs to obstruct, to stop buildings that are built on waterway.
Right. So Aisha, he's also been appealing to Ghanaians, essentially, emphatically saying that he knows that they've done a lot, millions of dollars, into trying to solve the perennial flooding situation in the country, but also been pleading with Ghanaians to also help with the drive. Essentially, for those who have been littering with plastic waste and also just, adding to the situation that we see in the country. So he's also been speaking to them. But again, he's also been talking about the works of Dredge Masters, a subsidiary of the Jospon group of companies, who are also in places like the Odor, trying to dredge the place to make it free, so that the more rains that we're expecting in the coming days will be able to get unobstructed way to flow into the sea.
Papania Shale there. He also indicated that there's a monitoring team from his office that will be reporting directly to him, the president, in terms of progress on this directive. What's the job of this monitoring team? What exactly are they supposed to do?
Yes. So, Aisha, this team essentially is supposed to be monitoring some of the dictates that he made. So, for one of the things that he said, he charged the MMDAs to remove structures obstructing the free flow of water immediately. And again, MMDAs has to ensure developers adhere to the building permits and to sanction staff who issue permits to buildings on waterways. So this is a directive straight away to the MMDCEs as well. And he says that this special office that is created is supposed to be making sure that these things that they put in place, not forgetting some drainage pacts that we signed in some years ago to make sure that we are dredging all our drains. So this office is supposed to be checking the progress on this, including the directives given to the MMDCEs, so that those that are not doing well, are not performing well, probably you deal with them in a proper way. And again, those that are also performing well, the other MMDAs can learn from them.
Papania Shale with those updates. Still on floods in Accra, there's bumper-to-bumper traffic on a section of the Accra-Kaswa Highway 24 hours after heavy rains rendered about a kilometer of the road impassable. Work is now underway to fix it. The Monday and Tuesday evening torrential rains washed down silt from some hills at Wager onto the main highway. Maxwell Agbagba went back to the area this morning and reports there's heavy traffic and the destruction of properties. So you saw pictures of the dual lane of the Accra-Kaswa Highway, which is still being fixed because a lot of cars are still stuck in there. Now, Ghana's Agriculture Minister, Dr. Freya Akoto, has revealed that the country is turning to organic fertilizer now to make up for the importation of inorganic fertilizer, which is beginning to face serious challenges. But an organic compost producer is warning against over-reliance on organic fertilizer. This comes as African Union focuses on food security in commemoration of this year's AU Day, which falls today. We'll be talking more about that and what the situation is like on the continent. But first, let's hear from the Agric Minister in the following report put together by Samuel Kojobris.
Last year, if you compare the amount of fertilizer distributed to our farmers, you will see a sharp drop this year. From January to May, the amounts that have been distributed are nothing to write home about.
Ghana's Agri Minister, Dr. Efriye Akoto, admitting that the country is facing acute fertilizer shortage this year. After several months of farmers warning of the lack of fertilizers and thereby raising the cost of the few available, Dr. Akoto, at a meeting with producers and importers of fertilizer, has said the quantities supplied this year are nothing to write home about.
There's an acute shortage of agrochemicals generally, and fertilizers in particular, because of what is happening in Ukraine and Russia, and the sanctions and all those things breaking the supply chains and making global trading very, very difficult. If you compare at the end of May for the last 4 years, the amount of fertilizer distributed to our farmers, you will see a sharp drop this year. We reckon that the demand for fertilizer in Ghana is about 600,000 metric tons. And so far this year, we haven't even done 100,000 metric tons. So we are way, way off.
Dr. Efriye Akoto, in admitting the difficulties, explained that organic fertilizer might probably be the game changer now, since organic agriculture itself even fetches high premium on the international market.
Farmers only last year at the beginning of the season were paying 120 cedis per bag of 50 kilograms. Now you'll be lucky to have it for 400 cedis if you even see a bag. And we find that the solution lies in organic fertilizer. I mean, organic agriculture has taken a huge premium on the international markets, sometimes as high as 50% price increase if a product is produced organically. So, and we have a lot of fauna, flora around, and a lot of garbage that we throw away, which could be used for fertilization. I've seen Zoom Lion, for instance. We've been having a trading arrangement where they give us some organic fertilizer. And so are some of the companies that I've had here. But what I've picked up is that given the opportunity, you can supply far more than that.
But Michael Padituo, the managing director of the Accra Compost and Recycling Plant, is cautioning against relying only on organic fertilizer.
I must put this into context. There's no way we can replace the inorganic fertilizer market completely with compost, because the literature even suggests that when you put the two together, the impact or the effect is more than either of them. You understand? And because compost is bulky, per acre, the amount of compost you needed to complement the effect of inorganic is quite enormous, and we need to be careful when we are speaking to those things. Yes, compost has its own advantages. I mean, because of the organic matter in it, contributes to, healing and then bringing back the soil health.
So maybe once the ministry is encouraging the use of organic fertilizer, it must also do well to enhance the importation or production of the inorganic fertilizer, since organic alone might not be ideal. For Joy News, Samuel Kojo Brace reporting.
This year's AU celebration is centered on nutrition, with the theme strengthening resilience in nutrition and food security on the African continent. Senior lecturer at the West Africa Center for Crop Improvement, Dr. Daniel Jejeronyo, and my colleague Joseph Opoko-Gakpo have been sharing some perspectives on how to address the challenges on the continent and Ghana for that matter.
Well, clearly, challenges like COVID-19 have made the problems with food security on the continent even worse. The estimates point to how over the last 2 years or so, an additional 20 million plus people across the continent have fallen into food insecurity challenges, thanks to what we're seeing with the COVID-19 pandemic, which we are all trying to recover from. Looks like on the health front, we've made some progress in terms of recovering from the impact of it, but when it comes to issues like food insecurity, that much progress has not been made. And recently as well, the challenges with accessing inputs like fertilizers as a result of the Russia and the Ukraine crisis has further deepened the challenges with food prices on the continent. And so over the last few months, then the indications are that across board, we've seen like a 20% hike in the prices of various food commodities across the continent. And it's obviously a very worrying situation. So clearly, things are getting worse than getting better. Pre the COVID-19 pandemic, there was a lot of progress as far as the efforts at meeting the Sustainable Development Goal on ensuring zero hunger by 2030, which, although we were off track in meeting it, there was a bit of optimism. But these two specific incidents that I cite have further worsened the problem, and we've probably moved back the efforts at meeting those 2030 goals by another 10 to 15 years. Well, clearly.
So the West Africa Center for Crop Improvement, who has been championing the food and nutrition challenges we face on the continent, is calling for strategic investment in 6 crops, mainly cassava, tomato, rice, cowpea, sorghum, and soybean. And so we're calling for strategic investments in these areas. We want to strengthen the seed systems of these crops. For any real transformation, agricultural transformation initiative, we need improvement in seed systems. And when we strengthen the seed systems of these crops, we believe that we will make a giant step towards ensuring food security. And why is these 6 crops? For instance, look at the import bill of rice, for instance. We import about $500 million of rice annually. I mean, that is a huge bill for a single crop. And when you take tomato as well, tomato is a major staple in Ghana. And when you take tomato, for instance, we import huge amounts of tomatoes into the country. And again, most of the varieties of the crops being grown, or some of the crops I mentioned being grown, are low yielding due to myriad of challenges that these crops face. So what do we need to do? We need to continue to invest into the improvement of these crops. And Joseph mentioned some of the challenges that are confronting us currently, but when you look at most of the crops that we grow in Ghana, most of them are very low yielding, though the crops have high yielding potentials. So based on climate change challenges and many other challenges, so what we need to do, continue to do, is to continue to improve on these crops so that these crops will continue to have the resilience that is necessary, so that when the challenges confront these crops will continue to yield high value.
Former PPA boss Jenim Boateng, together with his brother-in-law Francis Kweku Ahen, have been granted bail by the Accra High Court of the Criminal Division to a tune of 5 million cedis each, with 2 justified sureties. They have not pleaded guilty to all counts of charges against them by the special prosecutor. Counsel for the former PPA boss Kwame Champon Boateng has, however, expressed optimism that the trial will give them the opportunity to prove their case despite the prejudices on the case. My colleague Samuel Mbura, who has been following the story, joins me with more. Samuel, what are the directions from the court to the accused and special prosecutor?
Well, the court has directed that the accused persons should file their addressees and a list of witnesses in case the court finds that the prosecution has made a prima facie case against them, and that Mr. Jenim Boateng is to deposit his nationally recognized ID with the registry. And the second accused, who is the brother-in-law, Kweku Ahen, is also has been, granted bail and he has not been asked to submit any document, and then he has been cautioned to be of good behavior and cooperate with the entire court proceedings. So that's what the court is directing them. The court is also directing the special prosecutor within 4 weeks to file disclosures and serve the accused persons with all documents intended to rely on and what won't be relied on during the trial. So they file witness statements of all witnesses and serve same on the accused persons.
Samuel Mbura from with that report from the court. Now, Upper West Regional Chairman of the New Patriotic Party, SB Kambiri, says he's seeking for a second term because he was unable to fulfill his promises due to the fact that the first 4 years was a learning process for him. The 74-year-old retired Saudi Arabia University English lecturer won the Upper West Regional Chairmanship of the NPP 4 years ago with a plethora of promises. He said given another opportunity as chair of the party, he will be able to fulfill all his promises. The Upper West Regional correspondent Rafiq Salam has more.
4 years ago, then a polka rookie at a programmel at Jiriba Hills Hotel codenamed the Canberra Polka Summit to declare his intention of taking over from then outgoing chairman of the party, Alhaji Abubakar Abdurrahman Short. SB Canberra mesmerized and dazzled the New Patriotic Party delegates with sea of promises intended to better their lives and political fortunes of the party. It is almost 4 years in the saddle, and the heavyweight chairman, as he is affectionately called by his admirers, conceded that he's bitten more than he could chew and has failed to deliver some of his flagship promises and wants another bite of the pie.
Promises were made. Unfortunately, we couldn't carry out all the promises. I remember when I was coming, I said I was going to stop this cheating in the school feeding program, for example, where some people have 2 each, 3 each, 4 each, and some others have 0. I promised that I was going to try to reverse that. You have had a contract for 2 years, let somebody also come in and take over. Unfortunately, I have not been able to fulfill that. I thought maybe 1 year, 2 years would have done it. Unfortunately, I needed all 4 to learn. Now it's time to do the work. I'm hoping that with the next set of 4 years, I'll probably be able to achieve more than I did.
At the Canberra Political Summit, he poo-pooed and mocked at the 5 seats won by the party in the 2016 general election, describing it as a fluke and given the opportunity, he will do better. The MPP in the last election lost 3 seats and won 1 to their arch rivals, the NDC, reducing the total number of seats of the party to 3. Despite the reduction in the number of seats, he is still calling for praises for going beyond the pass mark.
We retained 3 seats. That's 3/5, and that equals 60%. I don't think there's any exam if you score 60%, they will say you have failed. So as far as I'm concerned, we have still registered a pass mark, unlike before when we had 3 and lost all 3, which means we had 0%. So I believe that we did pass, and this time around we may pass even better.
Briefing on the neck of Chairman SB Canberra is Alhaji Tueba Mahama, popularly known as ATM. He is gunning for the 3rd time to become the party's regional chair. The Zamzam Satye Water Magri says morale in the party is down and supporters of the party are downhearted.
The party spread have gone down too much to the extent people say the party is dying in the region. So the party needs a young, vibrant person like Alhaji Tueba Mahama to cushion the party up in terms of party activities and whatever, party organization. But if you realize, if you come to Upper West, you say like it's only NDC in Upper West. It's the leadership. At least they should also try me. My message is that they should try me. What I have, I will deliver it, and everybody will be happy with it.
His main focus will be for the party to reclaim those seats and add more.
I will begin at my own home, that is West Central. We lost West Central very painful, which in fact, if certain things were put in place, we would have won West Central. Because the young girl or the young lady did very well. She did beyond expectation. But because of leadership scandal, inefficient leadership.
There are other 33 persons who have filed their names to contest for 9 other positions. Incumbent Alhaji Abdul Rahman Abdul Aziz, popularly known as Alhaji White, and former Laura constituency chairman Kwiri Ankanta will slug it out in the race to become the party's first regional vice chairman. In the race to become the party's regional second vice chairman, incumbent Cletus Ampenong is being challenged by 4 other persons that include former Wa Mayor Alhaji Mohammed Aziz Gado, former Laura constituency secretary Amos Jotuo, teacher Philip Ibrahim, and Bawa Bismarck.
And still to come in business, African Development Bank seeks to increase resources for member countries. More in business shortly.
Hello, good afternoon. Let's do business now with me, Beverly Broom. The African Development Bank is seeking to increase resources for member countries for more productive projects on the continent. To end this, President of the African Development Bank Group, Dr. Akinwumi Adesina, is seeking approval from the board and partners of the bank to raise $33 billion in order to support more initiatives of member countries.
You have stayed with the fund. You have supported the fund. And your countries have been partners in a journey of hope of the countries that are supported by the African Development Fund. To give greater hope, to cope with increasing challenges, the ADF countries need greater resources. One way to achieve this is to allow the African Development Fund to use its accumulated equity of $25 billion to leverage $33 billion from the capital markets. Then the fund will be able to deliver more. The fund will provide greater leverage for donor contributions, a greater value for money for taxpayers from all of the donor countries. The fund will become more sustainable as it will generate more income. The fund will reduce debt of countries as it will deliver much lower concessional lending rates compared to the very high rates these countries get on the global capital markets. Then together, we will build a more equitable growth and development from the middle-income countries to the low-income countries and to the fragile states. No development of any country will be left behind.
The Ghana Enterprises Agency, GEA, says its Apprenticeship to Entrepreneurship program will help reduce unemployment and increase financial inclusion among the youth. The program, which aims to train over 8,000 persons, comes under a partnership between GEA and Mastercard Foundation, which will train close to 39,000 people. Chief Executive Officer of GEA, Kosi Ayi disclosed this at a graduation ceremony for 110 persons. Correspondent Kwame Yanka has more in the following report.
110 graduates were trained in dressmaking, hairdressing, welding, among other areas under the Apprenticeship to Entrepreneurship program, A2E. This number, according to Ghana Enterprises Agency, adds to about 10,000 youth who have been trained under A2E. 3,000 startup kits are expected to be given out to beneficiaries across the country this quarter, as same was given out last year. Chief Executive Officer of GEA, Kosi Yankiaye, says the partnership with Mastercard Foundation will help create employment.
So one of the things that President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo has stated clearly is the importance of youth employment and creating opportunities for the youth. And so this intervention of the GEA Mastercard Foundation partnership was to ensure that we create opportunities and pathway for employment for the youth of Ghana. So based on that, we've been training these men and women across the nation, and today they've graduated. And what we've decided to do is not to leave them there, but this is an opportunity for us to give them the tools and as startup kits for them to go and actually implement what they've learned. Because the goal of job creation doesn't end with only the knowledge. It also comes with the push, with the knowledge of understanding of how to run your business and keep the business going.
A beneficiary, Stella Mankwabo Afua, who is also a teacher, is happy to have obtained new skills.
When you have a handicraft, it helps the society, it helps your family. You sew for the close people around you. So the society will get the benefit of it, and then the nation as a whole. Even if your certificate doesn't work, your hands will work. Actually, we applied in 2020 during the COVID era, and then it was an online something. I didn't know anyone. It wasn't a protocol. So we got called, and then we came and got through the necessary procedures, and then here we are. It's been 2 years. We've waited. We've been through a lot of hassle. We didn't know it would even come to pass, but here we are today. We are so happy. We thank the government, and then we thank GEA for giving us the opportunity. I'll still further my education, but I'll alongside work with my hands.
Meanwhile, Tema Metropolitan Chief Executive Yohani Amaashite touched on how such policies will help address unemployment issues in the metropolis.
Of course, because Tema, and due to urbanization and all that, we have a lot of people coming to Tema to work here, to settle down here as well. So we have quite a huge number among the youth here. And normally the problem with the youth is how to start from somewhere. So what we are doing as a government is to be able to cross the first barrier of how to start. That is why we allow them to apply, and everybody applied, irrespective of your political affiliation, irrespective of where you come back from, they all applied. And then 1/10 of them were chosen. They were taken through apprenticeship. We got them trainers. And now today they've graduated. And then if you watch here, you can see a showcase of some of the products they've changed. And then we didn't just end there. We also gave them startup kits so that when they go back, then they could continue and be entrepreneurs as we move on.
Representative from Ministry of Trade and Industry, trainers, parents, among other stakeholders, were in attendance.
That's all for business for now, but we have more business stories coming up at 1 p.m. on the marketplace.
Hello, good afternoon and welcome to the sports segment. The wait is finally over as the Ghana Football Association have officially confirmed the reappointment of the four-man technical team that led the Black Stars to the 2022 World Cup, which would take place later this year. The technical team would be led by Otuado, who remains as the head coach, and it would be supported by George Boateng and Didi Dramani as assistant coaches. Chris Houghton would also be in the mix still as the technical advisor of the team. We have more details for you in this Joy Sports report.
The Ghana Football Association has confirmed the reappointment of Otuado as the head coach of the Black Stars ahead of the 2023 Africa Cup of Nations qualifiers. Just like the technical team for the 2022 FIFA World Cup qualifier playoff against Nigeria, Ado will be assisted by George Boateng, Masoud Didi Dramani, while Chris Houghton will continue to work as a technical advisor for the team. The four coaches who played a key role in Ghana securing qualification to the global showpiece will stay on as the technical team of the Black Stars as they prepare for the AFCON qualifiers as well as the World Cup to be staged in Qatar. According to the GFA, the decision to maintain the quartet comes after various engagements with all relevant stakeholders as well as the Ministry of Youth and Sports. Adu, Boateng, Dramani and Houghton will stay on as the technical team until December 2022. They are expected to name the Black Stars squad in the coming days for the qualifiers against Madagascar in Central African Republic.
Well, that's how we're wrapping up the sports here. If you do want some more sports stories, you can check my Joy Online /sports or follow us on social media at Joy Sports GH. My name is Oreko Ampofo.
And we're still getting closer and closer to the Hits FM Rep Your Jersey, which comes off on Saturday at the Aviation Social Center. I want you to come through. Let's have a good time together. Is it going to be Liverpool or Real Madrid? We'll find out on Saturday. But let's talk some more on showbiz here on the show. And social media sensation Jacqueline Mensah had shared her experience on Juju in the church. Now, the content creator shared the experience during her time on Hits FM to promote the movie 50-50 by Yvonne Nelson.
But have you had any experience like that?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, in church.
In church?
Yeah, even in church.
In church?
Yeah.
Tell me about it. No, but that's very interesting. In church?
Yeah, it happened like a long time. I don't know if they saw something, but then I used to be part of the choir. So then I think it was, they were sharing something, malt and then meat pie. Oh, the malt, I didn't know that they had opened it.
Oh.
But then it looked like it was already sealed. So when I took it, in 30 minutes I was home, like I was sick, my stomach.
Wow.
Yeah, they put something in it.
This is Hits.
And that was social media sensation Jacqueline Mensah. Away from that, actress and movie producer Yvonne Nelson has replied actor turned politician John Dumelo on the Doomsday Vigil. Yvonne explained why she embarked on the vigil and also hit on her colleague, actor John Dumelo, when she spoke on Hits FM.
But this same John Dumelo, in another interview, said that, well, your Doomsday demo wasn't necessary.
Yeah, that's John being John. That's John Dumelo being John Dumelo. But I believe our voices were heard at the time we did it.
Well, he on the other side, don't you think this is the time he joined forces with you?
Yeah, exactly. It's on air. I mean, it's not something that we said behind closed doors. It was in an interview, so it's there. People can go and check it out. Ahunsepe on Adom TV. John said, whether we hit the streets or not, he doesn't think the president is going to do anything.
This is Hits.
And that's Yvonne Nelson over there. For more news, log on to myjoyonline.com. And of course, once again, we're hoping that we all meet together at the Aviation Social Center on 28th of this month, which is this Saturday. The Hits FM Rep Your Jersey. Aisha, you coming?
Kenji, what got me is the Juju in church thing.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
Serious.
Yeah.
Man, you want to try God?
In church. It's risky, yeah?
Very risky. That's how we wrap up the bulletin this afternoon. My name is Aisha Ibrahim. Enjoy the rest of our programs.